Endowed Professorships at the University of Hong Kong are created to provide perpetual support to areas of academic excellence. May I now present Lawrence L.T. Howe Professorship in Anatomical Molecular Pathology.
My research motto is to better women's health. We try to achieve this goal by working on research on women's cancers. The reason why we need to work on these cancers is because the incidence of ovarian and endometrial cancers in Hong Kong has been rising tremendously in the last 10 years. Other women's cancers, such as cervical cancer, is highly preventable. By understanding how these cancers develop, we may be able to prevent that in the future, and by having new biomarkers that can predict the progress of disease and also providing personalized therapy for these women.
Professor Zhang has been working on women's cancer, especially cervical cancer and ovarian cancer. She's the pioneer in the testing or screening of cervical cancer that helps a lot of women. And also on the work of ovarian cancer, she's working on the molecular study that may in future turn into therapy to help women.
I would like to thank sincerely Professor Lawrence Howe for his generosity and continuous support for research in pathology. Biomedical research requires a strong research team and huge resources. This endowment will support our research team and provide resources for our research against women's cancers and better women's health.
I invite Dr. Lawrence Howe to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present Lawrence L.T. Howe Professor in Anatomical Molecular Pathology, Annie Zhang.
Learning begins at birth, and the cognitive language and social skills that children acquire during the early childhood period provide the foundations for their lifelong development and learning. Our research provides evidence on how, why, and under what conditions early childhood programs are effective in promoting development and learning. And we have been able to find out the reasons why and how early childhood programs promote child development, holistic child development in different parts of the world.
Early childhood development is increasingly a priority area for the government of Hong Kong and governments around the world. And Professor Rao's research is already having a major impact on enabling those governments to make evidence-based decisions about their early childhood policies and practices.
So I would like to thank Dr. Serena Yang for her generous gift. The endowment will be used to enhance our research capacity and for translational research for policies and practices that enhance child development and learning.
I invite Dr. Serena Yang to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present Serena H.C. Yang, Professor in Early Childhood Development and Education, Nirmala Rao.
My research is about corporate finance and financial institutions, especially with a focus on corporate governance. the failure of corporate governance and the misaligned incentive have been blamed as the root of the past financial crisis. My research tries to answer these questions: how to improve the corporate governance practices, how to improve the financial regulations so that we can create a sound and solid managerial and financial incentive system so that we can improve the financial stability and also economic growth in the end. Our research output can be translated into very plain language about policy recommendations and suggestions, and also the recommendations about corporate governance practices. So that's why we had a lot of interaction with the regulators, policymakers, and we will interpret our results in plain language and to facilitate their policy-making processes.
Professor Ling's work is important in improving banking regulations. He has done research to show some weakness for current banking regulations, and he has shown some ways to improve that.
I want to thank Mr. Joseph Wong and STELEX for their very generous contribution to the university, because this will be a permanent endowment to recruit and retain the best talents.
I invite Mr. Joseph Wong to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present STELEX Professor in Finance, Lin Chen.
Leukemia is a relatively common condition in Hong Kong, with a prevalence of more than 300 cases a year. Most patients are not curable, particularly patients with acute type of myeloid leukemia. My key area of research is to understand the basic process of blood formation from embryonic development to adult individuals, and understand how this process may go awry and how an intervention of this aberration may lead to a cure of leukemia. We have established a unique fish model, the zebrafish model, that actually enables us to understand much better the basic process of blood formation in embryonic development to adult individuals. And through creating a leukemic model of the zebrafish, we can actually screen out drugs that potentially could be useful in patients in the clinics. The ultimate goal of our research is to develop new and novel and less toxic drugs that can be used to patients with acute myeloid leukemia, so that they do not need to suffer from all the side effects of chemotherapy and bone marrow transplantation.
Leukemia is a highly heterogeneous disease, and to cure this lethal cancer, one requires a lot of scientific understanding of this disorder. Professor Leung is an outstanding clinician scientist, and he has translated a lot of his scientific discoveries into clinical practice to the benefit of our patients.
I would like to thank the Li Shifan Medical Foundation. Through this endowed professorship in hematology, will enable us to bridge the gap between the laboratory and the clinic so that more patients will benefit from our effort in this adventures.
I invite Dr. Wharton Lee to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present Li Shifan Medical Foundation Professor in Hematology, Ansgar Leung.
My research interest is in integrative medicine. As we know, both Western medicine and Chinese medicine have their limitations. I'm particularly interested in conducting translational research that bridges basic science, clinical trials, and real-world clinical practice. I have been principal investigator and co-investigator on a number of groundbreaking clinical trials to investigate acupuncture and Chinese medicine. The aim of my research is integrative Chinese medicine into conventional medicine for treatment of acute and chronic conditions, such as shock trauma, chronic pain, neurological disorders, and cancer-related symptoms.
Professor Lau is a world-renowned leader who laid the foundation of modern Chinese medicine, especially acupuncture research. His pioneer work in the clinical trial design and sham control trial in acupuncture research actually becomes the benchmark of modern Chinese medicine research worldwide.
I would like to express my deep appreciation to Dr. Vivian Tan Wang for her generous donation for setting up this endowed professorship in integrative medicine. This endowment will allow me to continue this research and support education, research, and clinical training in integrative medicine.
I invite Professor Vivian Tan Wang to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present Vivian Tan Wang, Professor in Integrative Medicine, Lao Li Xing.
Over the past 2 decades, there has been a dramatic increase in the incidence of diabetes worldwide. And in Asia, type 2 diabetes has reached an epidemic level. The main focus of my research in recent years has been on diabetes and the vascular disease. We have been focusing on the pathogenesis of vascular complications in diabetes, both the micro and macrovascular complications. We are now looking for potential protective and regenerative factors to be used as treatments, so hopefully this will lead to more effective preventive measures as well as treatment of diabetic vascular complications.
Professor Tan has made significant contributions to endocrinology and diabetes, especially in the research and treatment of lipid disorders and heart disease in diabetes. She is amongst the top 1% most cited scholars worldwide.
I'm very honored to be awarded the Sir David Todd Professorship in Medicine, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the donors of this endowed professorship. We hope that any work supported by this endowment fund will help to reduce the very large burden of ill health caused by diabetes, both on the individual and on the society.
I invite Sir David Todd to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present Sir David Todd, Professor in Medicine, Catherine Tan.
Genes influence our predisposition to many diseases as well as our characteristics. So my major research interest is in understanding how variation in genes and mutations in genes cause diseases. My major focus in understanding the molecular genetics of diseases is in understanding how genes cause skeletal disorders as well as inner ear hearing disorders. Our studies on ear development will be important for therapies to regenerate hair cells that might restore hearing. In the area of skeletal development and disorders, we hope we will have strategies for treatment for osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, and degeneration of disc in the spine.
Professor Catherine Chi's work is helping us to understand the molecular mechanism behind some of these rare congenital disorders. Her work is leading the field in developing potential treatments for these congenital disorders in the future.
I'd like to say a huge sincere thank you to Jemmy and Emily Tang for their generous endowment that will support our research and the young people that will be engaged in it.
I invite Dr. Jimmy Tang and Mrs. Emily Tang to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present Jimmy and Emily Tang, Professor in Molecular Genetics, Catherine Chia. I invite Mrs. Jill Galley to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. Professor Gabriel Leung, Dean of Medicine, will represent the university to receive a certificate.
My research is mainly about how information technologies can be used in a company to help improve the business operation, not just at the operational level, but also at the strategic level. I look at how a piece of information or an information system can be used by a user effectively and efficiently. I try to combine the information technology, neuroscience, marketing, psychology, put all this concept together to understand a bit more about actually what the brains worked and how actually people will look at this kind of website. And this is a very new area in terms of research on this kind of online group buying.
A lot of the models businesses are enabled by information technology, and definitely with the mobile technologies. And this research definitely help us to better understand how these ideas or models can be implemented with the help of information technologies.
I sincerely thank Padma and Harry Lilla for their generosity and insight to set up this endowed professorship. With the research fund that I received from this endowed professorship, I can deepen and strengthen my collaboration with scholars all over the world, especially the scholars in the mainland China.
I invite Dr. the Honorable Harry and Mrs. Padma Harry Lilla to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present Padma and Harry Lilla, Professor in Strategic Information Management, Patrick Chow.
My research involves the study of modern Chinese literature of the 20th century, as well as Sinophone literature from around the world. The main breakthrough that I've made in my work is the creation of a new field of study called Sinophone studies. Sinophone studies is very relevant to the understanding of communities, of peoples and cultures around the world, especially those places where Chinese people have settled. The most significant benefit of Sinophone studies is that it allows us to understand Chinese communities on their own terms. Understanding Sinophone communities is not the same as understanding China. Sinophone communities are scattered around the world, and we need to understand their local histories in order to fully understand their literature.
Professor Shi is a very original scholar in that she's one of those people who has helped to redraw the map of the field of studies, of Chinese studies, but in developing Sinophone as a modality in Chinese studies, she's enabled us to see the field in a new way.
I am very grateful to Mr. Hong Yin and Mrs. Suifeng Chan for this endowed professorship. This endowment allows me to expand my research from not only Asia, but also to the rest of the world.
I invite Professor Roland Chin to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present Hong Yin and Shufeng Chen Professor in Chinese, Shi Shu Mi Mei.
My research focuses on the study of DNA methylation in blood cancers. I also conduct clinical research in a disease called multiple myeloma. We focus our research on DNA methylation of tumor suppressor genes in blood cancer, in which when the tumor suppressor gene is inactivated by DNA methylation, we are prone to development of cancer. We also conduct clinical studies in a disease called multiple myeloma. And recently, we have adopted a total therapy approach by which we have improved the response rate, survival, and quality of life of these patients. We were one of the first groups to show that multiple tumor suppressor genes are actually inactivated by DNA methylation in blood cancers. We have shown that the DNA methylation may serve as a marker to predict clinical outcome in blood cancers.
Professor Chin is an expert in blood diseases and blood cancers. His research focuses on multiple myeloma, which is a common blood cancer. He and his team have made significant contributions in this area, and his seminal observations have very much improved the treatment outcome of patients with this particular disease.
I would like to thank Dr. Ho and his family for their generous donation, whereby we can conduct research into areas of the unknown and generate knowledge for the benefit of mankind.
I invite Dr. Ho Ziliang to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present SHO Professor in Hematology and Oncology, James Jim.
My research is on developing a medical humanities program. The medical humanities program is designed to foster the development of caring and humanistic doctors. It enables students to explore suffering and healing in patients and themselves, and it does this through teaching and learning activities centered around stories or narratives, film, performance, and visual arts. In performance, students experience a connection between sensations, emotions, and that of body movements and posture. If they understand this, they can observe that it is the body that the patient presents when they fall ill or when they get better. As part of assessment, students have to produce a piece of creative, reflective output in which they express their understanding of the medical humanities and its relevance to medical training.
Working with Professor Elsie Chan in the medical humanities has really shown me what passion means, and he is shamelessly passionate about promoting the medical humanities and especially in inspiring students to become the best future doctors that they can be.
I would like to thank Mr. M.B. Lee for his generosity in funding the Endowed Professorship in the Humanities and Medicine. This endowment is a great support to the medical humanities program. Medicine is truly both a science as well as a living art.
I invite Mr. M.B. Lee to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present M.B. Lee Professor in the Humanities and Medicine, Chan Lee Chong.
Spatial awareness is the capability of our brain to decode
the three-dimensional coordinates so that we can find our way home. The key focus of my research is to examine how spatial coordinates are being established in the brain during development. My research team has observed that strengthening of synaptic activities can switch on neural circuitry. We also look at how synaptic plasticity contributes to the functional effectiveness of the brain. We hope in the future we are able to identify new biomolecules that can help the brain to establish new connections that can facilitate recovery after brain damage.
Professor Chan Yingxing's research on spatial awareness answers a developmental process. At the same time, it also addresses the loss of pathfinding which occurs with aging. So he's identified neurocircuitry which can perhaps be targeted with new drugs to reverse this process.
I'm indeed honored to be recipient of this endowment, and also I'm thankful to the Dexter H.C. Mann family who established this to commemorate their late father, Dexter Mann Hong Cho. I would like to use the endowment to take our research on plasticity to a new level of excellence, and I also like to extend the finding of the research to the betterment of human life.
I invite Mrs. Winnie Mann to receive a certificate of appreciation from the chairman. I present Dexter H.C. Mann, Family Professor in Medical Science, Chan Yingxing.